For many years, the Samsung S series phones have been compared with Apple iPhones, and this year the S21 series came a little bit early in the middle of January, and it offers a lot of promise. There's a massive design change, and there are a total of 3 phones to consider: the S21, the S21 Plus, and the S21 Ultra. And while these phones show a lot of promise, having spent over a month with these devices, how do they stack up? Here's our review. All 3 of these phones don't differ a lot with respect to specifications, and at the core of all 3 of these phones is the Exynos 2100, which is a Samsung chip. Now, this is the chip that is available in most markets except for the United States and China, where you do get the Snapdragon 888. Now, a lot of people have already slammed the Exynos 2100 in comparison to the Snapdragon 888. And if you want to go see some of those, we'll leave a link in the description below to some of those videos. But since we only get the Exynos 2100 in India, we're going to talk about that. Let's talk about the price. For the Samsung Galaxy S21, you're going to be paying about 70,000 rupees, not considering the offers. And for the Plus, you're going to be paying around 82,000 rupees. And if you go all the way over to the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra, it starts at about 1,06,000 rupees. But you do get a massive 16GB RAM plus 512 gigabyte storage variant, which is the Phantom Black color variant, and that is priced at 1,17,000. All that being said, this is the first time I've consistently enjoyed using a S series phone for a long period of time. And while I was personally using the S21 Ultra, this video contains all information that you can get for the S21, the S21 Plus, and the S21 Ultra, considering our experience. With respect to build quality, all these phones are very similar, except the cheapest variant, which is the S21, has a glass-stick back panel. What that is a plastic that simulates glass. And while on the front, you still get Gorilla Glass Victus on the S21 and an aluminum frame to strengthen it, the back panel is a glass-stick back panel. And that in itself shows the direction that Samsung is heading, in which it wants you to accept a 70,000 rupee phone with a plastic back panel. Now, there are several advantages of a plastic back panel, and in that the cost of replacing it is considerably lower than that of a glass panel. But the fact that it scratches easily and it reduces the premium feel of the phone, especially at that price bracket, is something that you need to consider. While the Samsung Galaxy S21 Plus and the Ultra both have Gorilla Glass Victus on the front as well as the back and still the aluminum frame, the base variant or the S21 misses out on that. All 3 of these phones also have IP68 water resistance as well as dust resistance. Now, this is something that Samsung has provided for a lot of years, and that is consistent with this device as well. All 3 of these phones also come in their new slim stack packaging, which means that you're not getting a charger inside the box. You're also not getting earphones inside the box. And with the European Union's new charger laws, it appears that going forward, this is going to be the norm for all smartphone manufacturers. And you're going to start seeing that later on this year, that all manufacturers will basically start shipping with these slim stack boxes and without including a charger inside the box. Looking at some of the color combinations of the S21 series, I have to say that I absolutely love the Phantom Black color. Now, this is also available in the S21 Plus and the S21 Ultra. Because of the Gorilla Glass Victus, this looks absolutely amazing. Not only is it a matte black color, it is exceptionally nice to hold in the hand. And this is also the first time that I've used the phone without a cover for a long period of time. Also, I've dropped this phone several times from considerable heights and it has taken absolutely no damage. And in fact, the screen protector is also of a really high quality. It's only starting to peel off from one corner of the phone. And apart from that, it looks good. It doesn't even have any scratches on the screen protector, which means that the screen protector is also of a high quality. And Samsung's selling these off of their store on their website, which means that if you do end up damaging the screen protector, you can replace it with the same high quality one from Samsung. These are also the best displays Samsung has used in a very long time. The S21 Ultra has a 6.8-inch dynamic AMOLED 2X display. Now, this has a WQHD Plus resolution, which is about 515 pixels per inch. And this is also the first time you can actually use the full a screen refresh rate, which is 120 Hz on the maximum brightness as well. Now, while Samsung doesn't let you select a particular screen refresh rate, it does have the adaptive mode, which allows it to automatically run content which is 120 Hz. And then in certain instances, it will reduce the screen refresh rate automatically to preserve battery life. And even though the phones have a massive battery in all three cases, this helps to increase the battery life considerably. The displays are also vivid, have a good amount of brightness, 1300 nits of peak brightness for the S21 and the S21 Plus, and 1500 nits of peak brightness for the S21 Ultra, which means that whether you're indoors or outdoors, you do get to enjoy the display considerably. And because the peak brightness is so high, the HDR content on this is absolutely amazing. Samsung's also done a pretty fantastic job with the user interface. While it looks amazing on the display, they've also done a great deal to avoid accidental touches because of the curved edge of the screen. It is just very comfortable to use this display. Speaking of the user interface, the Samsung One UI 3.1 is one of the most consistent software upgrades from Samsung over the years. Not only does it have the latest version of Android, it also offers one of the most seamless user interface experiences that Samsung has been able to offer. The user interface looks good and performs really well, is highly intuitive, and also doesn't contain bloatware. It does have certain partner applications, including Microsoft apps, that cannot be uninstalled, but most of it is pretty clean and also offers up some of the Samsung services that people have gotten used to. The only thing that is there is Bixby. That shouldn't be there because I don't know of anyone who really uses Bixby. If you do, let me know in the comment section below. The user interface remained smooth throughout our test of 1.5 months, and not only that, it also remained consistent with respect to some of the things that we got used to. Autocorrect on this phone is really finicky and it does change your words quite a lot, and that is something that Samsung really needs to work on, especially if you're using the swipe keyboard. The only part of the user interface that is also a little bit finicky is the scroll bar, and if you're scrolling, you do seem to have it jump up and down because of the shape of the screen. And this is also a user interface oversight that Samsung could have easily addressed, but hasn't done in this phone. Apart from these few issues, Samsung's One UI has progressed quite a lot, and things like animations look really impressive. The transitions between applications look impressive as well. The overall UI experience is really smooth, and things like swipe gestures and the dark mode have been refined to look impressive and work well on the S21 series. At the core of all three of these phones is the Exynos 2100 chip, and while this allows Samsung to sell these phones in markets like India at rather competitive prices when compared to overseas, the lack of the Snapdragon 888 option is not appreciated. Samsung should allow people to choose between the Exynos and the 888 and should launch both variants in markets like India, where if a customer is willing to pay the extra money, he should be able to buy that phone. That being said, the Exynos 2100 is one of the best comparable chips that Samsung has launched, not only with respect to performance, but also day-to-day activities. The only problem with the Exynos chip is that it doesn't manage the processes well, and even though it is based on the 5nm platform, it is still very prone to heating up and overheating. And while we've seen Samsung push out software updates consistently that reduce the overheating, it also means that Samsung is throttling down the chip to produce less and less with respect to performance figures, and this also pushes the gap between the performance of the Snapdragon-based variant as well as the Exynos-based variant. While day-to-day activities and managing of 120 Hz on the display is easy for the Exynos chip, if you're going to be playing games for long periods of time, you will feel the phone heat up considerably. And there are also other instances where things like battery are not being managed well, and when the phone reaches about 5 or 6%, it randomly shuts down. And these are just a few things that the Exynos variant does struggle with. And while Samsung will address these with software updates, it will mean that they will have to lower the performance of the chip. And then over a period of time, the initial performance of the chip and the final performance of the chip will vary considerably. The cameras between the S21, S21 Plus and the S21 Ultra also vary. And while the S21 Ultra gets 4 cameras, one 108 megapixel camera, which is the main camera with an f1.8 aperture. You also get two 10 megapixel cameras, both of which are telephoto, one being the periscope telephoto lens, and you also get a 12 megapixel ultra wide. The 108 megapixel camera on auto will always capture 12 megapixel shots. Now, while the main camera on auto is what you're going to use most of the time, images through this camera are pretty impressive. Low light performance is amazing, and the Samsung UI also has something called the scene optimizer, which is great for indoor shots and also automatically adjusts the aperture a little bit so that you get more of your frame in focus. And this works great for things like group shots or just a subject shot, which allows more of the background to come in focus. The overall dynamic range and consistency from the images is pretty impressive, and if you do shoot images with the Pro mode, you can adjust quite a lot of things, especially if you get some raw shots on the camera. Video capability is also pretty impressive, with 4K 60 available as standard with image stabilization, and it looks pretty fantastic. You also have the ability to shoot 8K video with 24 frames per second on the main cameras. Now, the S21 Ultra has a massive 5000 mAh battery, while the S21 Plus has a 4800 mAh battery, and the S21 has a 4000 mAh battery. Considering the screen sizes of all of these phones, these battery sizes are pretty adequate. And for the S21 Ultra, if you're not really pushing the processor to a great extent, you will consistently get pretty impressive battery life, and you will easily pass 2 days without any issues. We saw massive screen on time numbers with the S21 Ultra, especially when the phone was just being used for day-to-day activities and not being pushed for things like high-end gaming or 4K video streaming. The phone also supports fast charging with 25 watts of charging possible using the cable that is included, and a 25-watt charger is being sold by Samsung, so you can take advantage of that. And it also supports a wireless charging of 15 watts. And then you can also wirelessly charge other devices with this with up to 4.5 watts on the S21 Ultra, the S21 Plus, and also the S21. Phone call capability is pretty impressive. There's good amounts of noise cancellation for the microphone pickup. And while we saw network strength being shown as almost full at all times, we found that the connection to the network is not very strong, and it often drops calls as well as loses network, even though it continues to show a full network on the bar above. This is something that Samsung really needs to address, as the basic core issue of the phone is that it doesn't really make phone calls well. And a lot of people don't use phone calls nowadays. They prefer using VoIP calls or voice over the internet. And also this phone does support Wi-Fi calling, so you can use that. But if you're making calls in a traditional sense, that seems to be an issue with the device, and it drops calls quite frequently. Samsung's come a long way with their devices, and the S21 series all but shows how Samsung has progressed and come all this way designing and developing phones. This is still the only phone that is truly compared directly with an iPhone, and there is a big reason for that. Samsung not only provides good looking phones, they also provide good hardware, and their customer support in India is pretty impressive. It still doesn't stack up to what Apple offers with respect to customer support, but it's still one of the best companies as far as customer support and customer service network in India is concerned. That being said, Samsung is losing out massively on its customer base because of the choice of chipset that they're using in these phones. And while the Indian customer has become much more educated, Samsung doesn't seem to realize that and misses out on a great opportunity to take over the market again, and loses out a lot to its competition, which offers Snapdragon 888 based phones at considerably lower prices. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to slap the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already a part of Team iGyaan. This was Bharat. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.